Joining me right now to discuss the state of affairs is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. He served in the U.S. Army and was deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. Please assess the situation.
Well, Maria, first off, on behalf of all Arkansans, I want to express my deepest condolences and sympathy to the nation of Israel and to all the families who lost loved ones or had loved ones wounded. I also want to express to the nation of Israel that we stand foursquare behind them in this war to destroy Hamas and its war-making and governing capabilities, because this is something unlike Israel has faced probably in 50 years since the Yom Kippur War. President Biden said yesterday that Israel has America's rock-solid and unwavering support. And that's fine that he said that yesterday, but we have to be with them in the long run. There's a long history, especially with President Biden or President Obama before him, after 4, 7, 10, 14 days of Israeli operations against terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, backed by Iran, of going wobbly, of demanding restraint, of seeking a ceasefire. We can't do that this time. President Biden often says that we're going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. After yesterday's savage butchery in Israel, surely President Biden will also support Israel for as long as it takes to destroy Hamas.
Well, this is a good point, and I'd like to understand better what that support looks like. What specifically does the administration mean when it says we will support Israel? Is that humanitarian efforts? Is that armament and weaponry? What does that mean?
Maria, what Israel needs now more than anything is freedom of action. There's no question that the Israeli Defense Forces can destroy Hamas inside the Gaza Strip, but they need the freedom of action and time to destroy Hamas. That takes the form of American military, diplomatic, and political support. The military support may require resupply of things like interceptors for their missile defense systems, or artillery shells, rockets, missiles, small arms ammunition. It may take more intangible forms of support, like mission planning for what will be very complex urban operations, or intelligence support as well. In addition to that military support, the United States needs to provide diplomatic and political support. Again, it's nice to see European leaders lighting up their national legislatures with the Israeli flag. But when Hamas starts trotting out dead bodies of civilian casualties caused by Hamas's use of civilians as human shields in the days ahead, and European leaders and the United Nations and liberals in the Democratic Party start pressuring President Biden to demand a ceasefire or demand that Israel withdraw, it's essential that President Biden not give an inch, that he give Israel the time and the freedom of action it needs to destroy Hamas. Again, if President Biden can stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes, I hope President Biden can stand with Israel for as long as it takes.
Well, you make a good point, because there is debate in terms of any more money going to Ukraine. Do you think you'll see pushback on a congressional level in terms of providing the money or humanitarian or weaponry needed to Israel from Congress?
No, I think we'll have widespread bipartisan support to provide Israel the aid it needs. I'm not sure that's necessary right now. The president has plenty of authorities under existing law to transfer weapons or to provide mission planning or intelligence support to Israel. But what they really need to do in the administration, up to and including the president, is to provide that political and diplomatic support to Israel when it begins to face pressure from European nations or the United Nations or a bunch of liberal human rights activist do-gooders that want them to withdraw from Gaza or have a ceasefire. They need the time, the freedom of action to destroy Israel. The United States can provide that to them.
Senator, I want to get your take on the support or lack of support that this administration has shown Iran. Everyone has said over the last 48 hours that Iran is behind this Hamas attack on Israel. About a month ago, Iran claimed that the money that was unleashed, the $6 billion, that there will be no restrictions on that money released in the U.S. prisoner exchange, despite the fact that the administration continues to say that money will only be used for humanitarian purposes. Walk us through how we arrived here. And here is John Ratcliffe, the former director of national intelligence, on with Fox and Friends about an hour ago, as he was asked about the administration's pushback that the $6 billion that was unleashed has nothing to do with the attack this morning. Watch.
Those words ring hollow from the Biden administration. They're disingenuous at best. Look, it's not even just this $6 billion, which clearly is going to further enrich Iran. It's closer to $60 billion. If you look at what the Biden administration has done to help this Islamic terrorist regime in Iran, by stop enforcing sanctions, by lifting restrictions, by allowing Iranian oil to increase by 650% over the last 2 years.
Senator, your thoughts?
Well, Hamas and Hezbollah and other terrorist groups in the Middle East are proxies of Iran. And an operation of the complexity of scale yesterday could not have happened in almost all likelihood without Iranian approval and probably Iranian involvement in planning. But as we look forward about what President Biden should do relative to Israel, we should also think about what he's done relative to Iran and what he needs to do now. For 3 years, the president has appeased Iran, the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism. It's not just the $6 billion that was released from sanctions controls last month. It's $10 billion that was released from Iraq into Iran. It's looking the other way on more than 80 attacks against American troops in the Middle East, or allowing Iran to threaten shipping in the Persian Gulf, allowing Iran, without serious consequence, to arm Russia to kill more Ukrainians, releasing hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinian Authority since the very beginning of this administration. These are all acts of appeasement, concessions, and weakness that embolden the leaders in Tehran as well as Hamas to believe that they could launch this brazen, savage attack against Israel. They've been killing Americans. They've been killing Israelis. They've been killing Ukrainians via Russia. They've been killing their own people through repression and crackdown over the last 3 years. Why would these terrorist leaders think that it was going to be any different this time around? So in addition to supporting Israel, it's time for President Biden to stop appeasing Iran, stop all payments to Iran, enforce all sanctions to the max, stop all payments to the Palestinians, and make it clear that we will no longer grant these kind of one-sided concessions.
Do you see this as an intelligence failure, the fact that Hamas was able to do this?
Well, I think looking backwards is something we'll have to do in the months ahead to figure out why we didn't appear to have indicators or warning either in Israel or certainly here in the United States. At the moment, though, rather than looking in the rearview mirror, we should be looking through the windshield, or maybe more appropriately, we should be looking through the gun sights at the battle to destroy Hamas in front of us.
Senator, thank you. We appreciate it. Senator Tom Cotton joining us this morning. Thank you, sir.